Welcome to Remnants of a Sound Blast. This is Easter Sunday 2023. I hope everyone is having a nice, happy Easter with their families. It hasn't been such a great week for us. We lost another pet cat on April 5th due to complications from cancer. So this makes the third cat that we have lost since the beginning of the year. We lost one on January 2nd. We lost another one on March 13th, and now this one on April 5th. So it's been a rough couple of months for us since the beginning of the year. And if you're like me, our pets are like family over here. So we try and go above and beyond to help them when they have sickness and issues. But at some point, you just have to let them go when they're suffering, or everything you're trying to do is not working out in their favor, and they have just so many things stacked against them. It was just time to let him go. So it's best to always euthanize your pet if they're struggling, and so that's what we had to do in this case. So yeah, it's been pretty much a rough last few days and last few months rather. You try and do whatever you can for animals when you have pets, and to me they're like family. So we really go out of our way to try and help them as much as we can. Like I say, there comes a point where you just have to put them down and do the right thing for them. It's a hard decision to make. A lot of people don't know when to do that, and I kind of struggle with that too, but it was time. So anyway, just wanted to put that out there. That is my reason for not posting anything over the last 2 or 3 weeks, or however long it's been. But I have had some things on my mind that I wanted to share, and I figured I would do another video based on some recent discussions that I've had with a good friend of mine. His name is Scott Smythe. I'm going to give a shout out to my boy Scott. Me and Scott grew up together in Chalmette, Louisiana. We went to high school together, and our common bond is music. And so one of our latest discussions through the phone was about this debacle with Motley Crue. More importantly, a vocalist who can no longer sing from the 80s, primarily from hair bands. Motley Crue's Vince Neal, Stephen Pearcy from Rat, John Bon Jovi, Don Dokken from Dokken, and David Lee Roth from Van Halen. Those 5 guys in particular, Vince Neal and Stephen Pearcy, God sakes, are they horrible. Just to see them now in the state that they're in with their voice, whether it be from age or drugs or just not taking care of themselves, or just a combination of the 3, or other things as well. They just don't know when to let it go. I guess they must have this lifestyle that they have to keep up with, and so they have to go out there and do what they do in order to survive, because they know nothing else. They can't just go get a regular job like someone, like an average person. Like, they can't just go be an electrician or go work at some kind of a retail store or whatever. I mean, I know that sounds crazy. It would be pretty funny to see Vince Neal working at Walmart, but that might be a good place for Vince Neal, because Vince Neal cannot sing to save his life. If you go and check out any of these videos on YouTube, damn, that poor fella is bad off. He looks bad and he sings bad. And the complete joke around Motley Crue right now, where Mick Mars is suing them and they're counter-suing him, or however that's going, it's sad to see that. I mean, those guys, as far as I'm concerned, they've never been like a great band. I mean, they had success in the 80s, don't get me wrong. They were big, a lot of people loved them, but for me, they just didn't do it for me. Aside from a handful of songs, I thought their music was kind of shallow. I thought it was, just kind of like one-dimensional. I mean, they never branched out and did anything that blew my mind. But if you watch any videos on them on YouTube, people posting videos from like recent concerts and stuff, it is just so embarrassing to see these guys. And every time I watch these videos, I'm thinking to myself, God sakes, how can somebody go out there and try and sing like that and think that they're doing a great job? And you have all of these people that are coming to these concerts and they cheering them on, and it's like, is it just a thing about the nostalgia of it, just being like reliving that part that part of you from back then that just says, I got to see these people? I mean, is that what it's about? Or do these people really think that this sounds good? Because to me, it sounds horrible. Vince Neal is so bad. Like, those videos that people put up with what he's trying to say versus what he is saying is absolutely hilarious. Just the words that comes out of this guy's mouth make absolutely no sense. Some of the songs, it doesn't even sound like he's singing in English. It's so bad, y'all. But God, I'm just so embarrassed for these people. Stephen Pearcy, in particular, kind of gets on my nerves almost as bad as Vince Neal, because the way that he dresses, I mean, he tries to play the part and look and sound like he's 25 years old again. And dude, it's not happening. It's not even close to happening. I mean, the dude dresses, he looks like a slime ball with all those old nasty tattoos, and he just looks like a dirty person. Like he just crawled from underneath the dumpster just to go get a breakfast sandwich from Dot's Diner or something. I mean, it's hilarious how bad this guy looks and sounds. I mean, and I love Rat. Like, don't get me wrong. Rat is one of my favorite 80s hair metal bands. Like, Rat, Cinderella, and Tesla, and Queensryche, even though Queensryche is not technically a hair band. They're more like progressive metal. But those three or four bands, I love those bands. And to see Stephen Pearcy like that, it's just bad. I saw Rat in, I think it was 2009. They came to the House of Blues in New Orleans, and it was a pretty good show. And off of my memory, I don't remember him sounding that bad. I don't think he struggled a whole lot. But since then, over the last probably 5 or 10 years, man, his voice has gotten really bad. And I just don't see how these guys go out there and take themselves seriously. And people, like, go to these shows and pay money to see this crap. It's unbelievable to me. I wouldn't even go if it was free. Because my ears are what tells me if something's good or bad. And I know, like, within 3 seconds, this dude's out of tune. He can't sing. He sounds horrible. You know, I could go on and on about how bad it sounds. But, I mean, if you've seen any of these videos yourself, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I wanted to ask y'all, you know, chime into this discussion. I want to ask y'all, what do you think about these guys? Like, what do you think the reasons are for them to just keep going out there and just, you know, playing the same music over and over with nothing really new that's good, and just rehashing the same old stuff and going out there and trying to sound like they 25 years old, and it's not even close. Like, Stephen Pearcy has like a backing band, so he's the only original member from his version of Rat. And when I watch these songs, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, dude, you sound so bad, it's not even funny. And I want to like you because you are the guy from Rat, but I just can't listen to it. Same with Don Dokken from Dokken. Same with David Lee Roth. David Lee Roth never had a great voice. David Lee Roth was a showman. People want to compare Van Halen and Van Hagar. Well, let me tell you, Sammy Hagar's voice is miles better than David Lee Roth's voice has ever been. But David Lee Roth has the front man attitude, so that's why I think they did so great with him. I mean, he sings okay. He's not a bad singer. You know, I mean, he sounds like Louis Prima on steroids, if you want to be honest. I mean, he sounds like Louis Prima. Go listen to Louis Prima, that old Italian guy. Those old traditional Italian songs from the 50s and the 60s and all of that kind of doo-wop music that he did. If you kind of beef it up to what David Lee Roth is, he sounds almost identical. So that's always what I think about when I hear David Lee Roth is Louis Prima on steroids. But he cannot sing worth a shit these days. I mean, that guy couldn't sing for the last 20 years. And he goes out there and does like grassroots versions of Van Halen and all of this weird stuff. I mean, if he's trying to be like Robert Plant, he's missing it by a long shot. But Robert Plant is one of the few people who I still respect because he realizes what he can and can't do with his voice. He's not trying to go there with what he did with Zeppelin. He's not trying to take on that persona anymore. He said it over and over and over again. He doesn't want to be affiliated with that part of his past. I mean, he's been moving forward since 1982 when he had his first solo album, and so you have to respect him for what he does. Again, he can't sing Immigrant Song like he used to, and he knows that, and everybody else knows that. But he's not going out there and trying to be that guy. That's the difference. These people are trying to be what they once were, and it's not happening. So I don't know if they're doing this because they have some kind of like lifestyle or mortgage or $1 million vehicles that they still have to pay for, and so they have no choice but to go in there and go out there and embarrass themselves. But it's just really bad. So I just wanted y'all's thoughts on that. Is it just me, or do you hear this too? I know my boy Scott knows about this because we brought it up together, but I know there's a lot of people out there that have to feel the same way. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. You know, Vince Neal, Stephen Pearcy, David Lee Roth, Don Dokken, and John Bon Jovi. Those 5 people in particular. It's so embarrassing to see those guys, what they once were, and now what they are. And the debacle that is Motley Crue. That's just a freaking joke, man. Those guys have always been more about you know, antics and publicity than the music. Instead of letting the music speak for itself, which they can't because the music's not that great. So I guess I understand why they have to pull all of these stunts on stage and behind the scenes and all this other stuff like they do, because they got to bring attention to themselves some kind of way, right? Because the music's not doing it. You know, so there's this back and forth now about Mick Mars left, or they kicked Mick Mars out because he couldn't remember the songs, and he's saying he left because he chose to leave, and all this. But as far as I'm concerned, the only 2 really talented guys in that band, as far as playing their instruments, is Tommy Lee, which I think he's a fine drummer. I think he's a really good drummer. He's decent. He could pull it off for sure. He's got the chops. And Mick Mars. I think Mick Mars is a really good guitar player. I think if he would have been in another band besides Motley Crue, he probably would have made a better name for himself, because you know, his guitar playing just got saturated in with that stupid music that they had. Let's face it, I never was a big Motley Crue fan. I mean, Shout at the Devil was a great album. I thought it was their best work. I thought it was the only album where Vince Neal could really sing throughout the whole album. And I'll give him that the Dr. Feelgood album, he did have some good stuff on that. But he's got that whiny voice he's got that irritating tone to his voice. It's just, and it's personified now that he's doing what he's doing out there on stage. It's just totally ridiculous. He's taking the bad parts about his singing and just personifying those parts, and it just makes it so bad. God, he's so horrible. Now, Nikki Sixx, I mean, he can't play bass to save his life, but he's a decent songwriter. I think, from what I understand, he wrote most of the lyrics and the song, so I'll give Nikki Sixx that. But as far as bass playing goes, he's bottom of my list. I mean, he doesn't even make my list if they had one. But, so, look, and I blame the people that go out there and pay money to see this stuff. That's the real people to blame, is the fans that pay money to see this crap. I mean, I would never pay to see a Motley Crue show. I would never pay to see a Stephen Pearcy show. I wouldn't go see Bon Jovi. I wouldn't go see David Lee Roth. I wouldn't pay to go see Don Dokken or anybody else that I forgot to mention that has that same issue with their voice these days. It's like comparing it to it's almost like a bad cover band version of those bands. So, you know, if you went to like some shitty hole-in-the-wall ballroom and heard somebody playing In My Dreams from Dokken, and it was just this horrible band with a really bad singer, that's what I would compare it to. I mean, besides saying that you saw the real people, as far as going there for the music and you know, pleasuring your ears, it's not happening. I would only go if they gave me earplugs to wear and it was free. And I probably wouldn't even go for that unless they had some buddies going, we want to just go out and have a good time that night, just to joke around and goof off or whatever. Yeah, I might go. But besides that, I'm not taking the music seriously, because I already know before I go what I'm in store for. So I wouldn't even sit there and try and listen to it. I would just be there just for whatever reason. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I've been, you know, kind of catching up on the Motley Crue news and all this other stuff that's going on with them with the lawsuit and everything. But man, those guys' voices are totally destroyed. I feel so bad for them that they're out there just, I guess they're forced to go out there and do that because of their lifestyle. That's the only thing I could think. If there's something else going on, why they're out there doing this, or maybe somebody doesn't have enough balls and courage to tell them, like, hey, look, Steven or Vince, whatever, dude, you sound really bad. You need to, like, just tone it down. You need to try something else. You need to try and reinvent yourself. Come up with things from a new angle and try something new, because trying to sing those songs is not happening. I mean, and that's the other thing. All these guys that I mentioned, they're not musically creative enough to reinvent themselves, to go out there and like change it up like a David Bowie would do. David Bowie like came out with a new side of himself every time he had an album. You know, and I'm not a huge David Bowie fan, but I know enough about him to know that the guy really did, he mixed it up. He was always reinventing the wheel, and I think that's why he broke through like he did, because he was just always changing, and none of these guys had the ability to do that. I mean, they were kind of like a one-trick pony, you know. That's my kind of rant for today. I'm going to try and do another video on my second favorite guitarist this week. I want to wish everybody a happy Easter 2023 with your families. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and comment below. Most importantly, I'd love to get your feedback on all of this, because that's some of the reason why I do these videos is to kind of, you know, get some input from the people who watch. So if you comment below, thumbs up to you. Again, like and share, and like I say at the end of all my videos, y'all keep rocking and stay safe.